everyone. Welcome to this new episode of our Student Spotlight series, where we are able to showcase some of the work our students have been doing. I'm Charlotte, one of the outreach coordinators here at CCIR, and it's our pleasure today to have Aarush with us, who did one of our one-on-one mentorship courses. So firstly, can you just give us a brief introduction? So tell us where you're from, your age and your year in school, and then what your academic interests are.
So, hi, my name is Arush. I'm 17 years old and I'm a sixth form student just joining year 13 now at Dubai College in Dubai, UAE. And for my A levels, I'm doing math, further math, physics, music, and the EPQ. In terms of my primary research interest, that would lie at kind of the intersection of music and technology. That's what I'm really interested in. And that was also what my CCR program project was on music and computer science and computing and technology.
Nice. And what made you seek out CCIR?
So I think the topic that I was pursuing, music and technology, is quite a niche topic, and it's actually very difficult to find mentors in the area who would be willing to kind of supervise research. So I did try the process of cold emailing some mentors, but ultimately I found that CCR does have a really great network of mentors kind of in this field. And eventually, once I applied and got in, I got matched with Dr. Sarkar from the University of Cambridge. So that was a great process, and I've learned a lot from him because his direct research experience is in music and AI and creativity, specifically within the field of human-computer interaction.
Nice. And had you had any previous kind of formal education or experience with this subject in school before starting CCIR?
So yeah, this topic isn't really explored in school. I mean, at least in my school, because traditionally, physics and computer science and STEM is treated very separately to music, and music is more about performance and composition. And there's actually very little overlap between the two subjects, music, technology, and creativity in traditional high school curriculums. It's more of something that's explored in college and beyond.
Yeah, definitely. And I think even more so it's very niche in that a lot of times when I hear the intersection of music with something else, it's usually like music with psychology or, music with therapy, stuff like that. So it's very cool that you're able to do such a niche topic. So can you give us a general overview of kind of what your course was about, what specifically you looked into, and then we'll move into talking about your research project in particular.
Yeah, so I mean, our research process consisted of 14 weeks, like 14 sessions with Dr. Sarkar, my mentor. In the first kind of few weeks, we just read through papers in the existing field. We read through kind of the existing literature on music and AI and computer science. So that was how we kind of spent our first few weeks. After that, we started developing our own tool in Python, which was a melody generation system using Markov chains. Essentially, how that works is that you can play a melody into a keyboard, and then the computer program using Python will analyze that melody, apply a statistical model called Markov chains to it, and then compose a similar melody to your kind of original melody. So essentially, it acts as kind of a composition buddy. So you could play something to it in terms of a melody, and it will help you generate something similar, which is hopefully useful to your kind of composition process. So that was kind of the start of our research experience. Once we developed that paper, our project in Python, we kind of adapted it to the idea of our overall project. So in our final research, we used our tool that we developed in our study to conduct primary research. And that also leads on to your next question about our study. Using the tool that we created, we added features called music steering tools, which are essentially features that allow kind of a composer interacting with the tool to control the output. So, for example, features like would you like to make the melody upbeat or kind of sorrowful? Existing literature suggested that adding these kind of music steering tools would help increase user sense of agency and authorship with the melody being generated. So, using this tool and the music steering tools, we developed two systems essentially. One was a placebo system, and one was a non-placebo system. So, meaning like the placebo system a few of the control features that I mentioned actually didn't work and they didn't have any effect on the melody generated. So to an unsuspecting user during our study, when they use the two systems, they would think that, clicking on the slider is changing the melody under the hood, but it really wasn't. And that was kind of the basis of our study. We then conducted a user study of 20 participants. It's currently an ongoing project, but we're aiming to kind of identify and interview 20 participants. So once we will do that, we're going to conduct qualitative thematic analysis on all the interview transcripts. And based on that, we'll kind of see what findings we get. The main kind of inspirations behind this project was that when we were reading existing literature, we found that a lot of studies were focusing on how we can improve user sense of agency and authorship with generative music systems. So, for example, a really big music system right now is Suno.ai. And Suno's kind of dubbed the ChatGPT of AI music because you can essentially just write a simple prompt into it, like compose me a song in the style of something, like a style of this genre, and it will complete like a full 1 minute song for you. So, I mean, that's very cool, but a lot of scholars argue that it's really detrimental in the sense that it could reduce kind of musician sense of creativity because the AI is doing all the work for them rather than helping them. So, kind of the purpose of our research is to develop more responsible tools that augment the creativity of composers rather than diminish it.
That's so interesting. Yeah, I think a big kind of talking point about AI and how much it has improved over the years is the ethical implications of it. So it's very interesting that you're taking this approach. Wow, okay. And it's also very cool that you're able to do some qualitative and kind of primary data collection as well as part of this study. In terms of that, do you have a hypothesis yet? Is there anything you're expecting to find with those responses?
Mhm. So at this time of recording, I've conducted about five of the kind of intended 20 interviews. And from the research that we found so far, from the data that we've collected, it's actually showing that these placebo features are having an effect on the psychology of kind of the users. And they are feeling that kind of keeping these placebo features is affecting their sense of authorship over the melody generated, even though, of course, under the hood, it's not actually doing anything. So, I mean, from what we've seen, it seems like that could be a trend that having the illusion of kind of having some control over the melody generation makes you feel like you're the direct author and you're in control of the melody generation. And well, it'll be something interesting to see with the rest of the interviews and also coding the transcripts using qualitative thematic analysis. But yeah, that's one of the observations that we noticed so far.
Interesting. That's super interesting. Okay, so thank you for telling us about your research so far. I'm excited to see, the final results when they come out. Now
Mhm.
we're going to shift into discussing just your general experience with CCIR. So firstly, can you tell us what your experience was like in the program, doing a high level research project and being able to delve into such a niche topic as a high school student?
Yeah, I think it's been a fantastic overall experience with CCIR. So I mean, like I mentioned earlier at the start of the meeting, that there's kind of not that many mentors who are in this field right now in my region, especially in Dubai and the UAE. So CCR was able to provide me with the fantastic mentor, Dr. Sarkar, who kind of guided me throughout the whole process. And he actually introduced me to this new field, which I actually never really considered, intersecting both my passions for music and technology. So that was a fantastic kind of way to start the program. And I think CCR's editing team and kind of the support they provide for students in getting it published, which is later on down the track once we finish our research, that's also really excellent.
Nice. And then, how has this research process and experience compared to papers or projects that you've done in school before?
So I've done a few both in school and outside of school literature review papers, but none of them have actually been primary research collecting data. So this was actually my first experience where I was actually collecting data and had to go through the whole process of kind of getting ethical consent first and then conducting the interviews and then coding the transcript. So it was a very unique, but also I think a very worthwhile experience, getting involved with this before I go to college.
Yeah, it's definitely so unique and impressive that you are able to do primary data collection as a high school student. That's really cool. And then I know we were talking earlier about that you were able to present your work at the symposium. So can you tell us what that was like for you? Was this your first time presenting your research?
Yeah, so I had applied for the CCR Research Symposium a few months ago, and around end of June, I got an email finding out that I was accepted to the conference. So the CCR Symposium is an annual conference that runs every year in King's College, Cambridge, where a select few of the CCR students globally get to present their research in person. So this year I had a fantastic experience there. I got to present my research with a 30-minute talk to kind of a panel of other CCR students, their parents, professors from the University of Cambridge, and also the very esteemed keynote speaker, Dr. Sorry, one second. Dr. Thomas Cech from the University of Colorado Boulder, who was actually the 1989 Nobel Prize in Chemistry winner. Also, interacting with him and interacting with all the professors there during the 2-day symposium and at the high table dinner was just a fantastic experience. It was also my first research conference, so it was definitely a great experience to present research in person and connect with kind of like-minded peers.
Great. Yeah, it's the symposium is a fantastic opportunity. It's really great that you were able to present there. And a question for you about kind of the mentorship experience that you had. So, for those listening, we really like to emphasize the aspect of mentorship in our programs as opposed to kind of the traditional teacher role, where our mentors don't just transfer information on to you, but really guide you through your own discoveries and learning process. And given that you were doing primary data collection, had to do an ethics approval, are in such a niche field, can you explain to us or tell us about your experience with your mentor as you moved through kind of the first teaching half of the course into the latter, more research-oriented half of the course and how they helped guide you through that?
Yeah, I think my mentor, Dr. Sarkar, did a fantastic job during the 14 weeks because each kind of session was a little bit different to the other. So, like I said, our first few sessions were more of kind of introducing me to this very new field, which I hadn't experienced before, kind of this field of music and AI, and going through kind of the previous literature. So, that was a very nice start to the program. And then afterwards, we kind of transitioned into the more technical side of programming and also building kind of AI tools like this. And then later on, to round off the research experience, we actually looked into primary research, qualitative thematic analysis, producing consent forms, and also just the whole overall process of writing an academic paper, which was all very, very useful to me.
Great. And then one more question about your experience with the program. Can you tell us what it was like? We've spoken a few times about how this is such a niche subject. Can you tell us what it was like being able to have access to a mentor that has expertise in this area and, the subject itself at such a young age?
Yeah, I think it was definitely a really insightful experience for me because prior to this program, I didn't really know much about the field of music in AI, and I didn't really know much about how I could, intersect my two passions for engineering and technology and computer science with music and creativity. So I think it's a really good program, overall CCR, for students who really want to develop their intellectual curiosity, in a sense, in certain kind of niche or maybe even larger fields. And having access to a mentor, who's specializes in this area is generally very, very useful.
Great. And then just a few more questions. The first one, do you think this course has given you any insights into your future? Has it maybe informed or shaped how you think of your path, either in university or in your career moving forward?
Yeah, I think CCR definitely has kind of inspired a passion of research in me. As an undergrad, I'm hoping to maybe get involved in research during my 4 years of undergrad, and potentially even further on. I'm considering maybe doing a master's or PhD degree afterwards, depending on how I find the experience during my undergrad.
Nice. And then my last question for you, what would you say to someone who asked you what the value of doing a project or a program like this is, especially for a high school student?
I think it's definitely a very useful and worthwhile program because you're developing a lot of skills like critical thinking and also expertise in a certain subject area very early in your kind of academic career, even before you're going to college. So I think it's definitely a worthwhile experience. You know, you learn a lot about the whole research process, collecting primary data and writing an academic paper and referencing. And yeah, I think it's just a great experience to be involved in before college.
Yeah, I would agree. So that brings us to the end of our spotlight interview. Thank you so much for chatting with me and congratulations again on your nomination to our series.
Thank you very much, Charlotte.